Imagine the hum of millions of machines, the ceaseless flame of promethium, the roar of colossal turbines, and above it all, the flickering light of the Astronomicon in the warp. For 10,000 years, the Imperium of man has rested upon a single being, the Emperor, or, to be more precise, upon what remains of him. His body, crucified upon the golden throne, resembles more a relic than a living man. But his spirit, the foundation upon which all humanity stands. But what if one day things change on the throne? What if the emperor doesn't just show signs of activity, but actually awakens? This question has haunted fans for decades. Some see it as a blessing, others as the end of the Imperium. But to understand the implications, one must grasp the sheer scale of the emperor's figure. He's more than just a leader. He's a symbol, a religion, a political tool, a weapon of mass destruction, and a beacon illuminating the warp. He's the glue that holds it all together. And if he awakens, the structure of the familiar Imperium will inevitably change beyond recognition. First awakening, what will the Emperor see? Let's imagine moment zero. Somewhere within the Golden Throne, a microscopic pulse flares. The tech priests, as usual, attribute it to the sacred noise of the machinery. But then comes the resonance. The throne vibrates, barriers crackle all around, and the energy coils begin to glow more intensely than usual. Servitors register abnormal readings, but it's too late. Awareness returns. The Emperor wakes up. When an ordinary man awakens from a long sleep, he experiences disorientation. Now imagine waking up after 10,000 years of death on Death. His perception is on another level. He feels everything at once. The great rift that split across the galaxy, the myriad souls dying in wars, his sons, the Primarchs, scattered across the world. He feels the pain of humanity, and he senses how much everything has changed. If the Emperor possesses even a fraction of his former psychic power, this moment will be like a supernova striking the warp. The Sigillite once said that the Emperor is the one who sees every thread of fate. Imagine how many of those threads have accumulated over 10,000 years. Reaction of those closest to you: panic, hysteria, awe. Terra's internal structure, especially the throne room, is where thousands of officials, Mechanicum adepts, and guardians watch over it daily. And if suddenly the Golden Throne begins to glow, and the Emperor begins to stir, this is the end of the old order. The first to react are the cadets and guardians of the telepath. They either fall to their knees or attempt to summon the highest officials. The Adeptus Mechanicus rush to record every change, and half of them probably immediately declare the event a miracle of the Omnissiah, while the other half declare it a disaster. Within minutes, the information leaks to the Adeptus Terra. Within an hour, to the Ecclesiarchy. Within a day, half the Imperium has heard rumors that the Golden Throne has come to life. And all this happens before the Emperor even utters a word. Even his awakening is an event worthy of the end of an era. But what happens next depends on what he does first. The Emperor's First Order. The Emperor has 1,000 potential priorities: destroy chaos, reform the Imperium, restore order among the Primarchs, punish the traitors, restart the Crusade. But the first thing he'll likely do is try to understand what happened to his empire during the 10,000 years he spent as a living corpse. There are two possible scenarios here. First, the Emperor speaks. Second, the Emperor is silent. In the first case, the Imperium receives direct leadership, and its words can spark either a mass upsurge or a revolution. In the second, uncertainty will erode the Imperium's foundations from within. But what will he say? What will be his first words? Where is Horus? What happened? Why is the throne held together by tech priestly duct tape? We don't know. But one thing is clear: his awakening will be a blow to the entire political system. What will the Emperor see in his Imperium? Awakening is only the first spark. Then comes the shock. The emperor inevitably realizes that the Imperium he built as a rational, united, and scientifically oriented civilization has devolved into a theocratic monstrosity, a state where reason has been replaced by dogma and logic by fanaticism, where all his teachings have been distorted and he himself has been made a god, something he forbade in life. Imagine his reaction. He planned to unite humanity under the banner of progress and science. And what does he see now? Huge temples the size of cities, where his statues reach a kilometer in height. Billions of people who consider him a deity. The Holy Inquisition, which kills everyone who dares to doubt. Tech priests who worship machines instead of understanding how they work. Corruption, incompetence, and bureaucracy, which has extended its tentacles into everything. If the emperor is capable of experiencing emotions, then the first minutes of his awakening are a mixture of rage, bitterness, and disappointment. But at the same time, he will understand something else. Despite all its perversions, the Imperium has survived. Broken, crippled, fanatical, but still standing. People continue to fight, millions die daily, and yet the Imperium endures. And this will be confirmation for him. Humanity has not broken. It stands firm, albeit fragilely. The Ecclesiarchy's reaction: panic and heresy. If there's one structure most threatened by the emperor's awakening, it's the Ecclesiarchy. Millions of priests, archbishops, and cardinals have spent centuries cultivating the god-emperor. They rely on the dogma that the emperor is not a man, but a deity, that he neither speaks nor acts directly, but requires their mediation. But if the emperor rises, there is no need for intermediaries anymore. This is a blow to the entire Ecclesiarchy's system of power. Many of its leaders will try to declare this a sign, a miracle, a test. But some, especially fanatics, may consider the awakening heresy. Yes, it sounds absurd, but remember, the Imperium is a state of paradoxes. If the emperor says he is not a god, he could be accused of blasphemy. Some high-ranking clergy, especially those whose power is built on dogma, will seek to conceal the awakening, sabotage the initial changes, or even eliminate those who facilitate the emperor's return to an active role. At the same time, ordinary believers, billions of people across the galaxy, will celebrate national holidays, engage in mass prayer, and practically experience religious ecstasy. Under these circumstances, unrest will break out. Some will believe that a holy crusade has begun, others that the end times have arrived. Adeptus Mechanicus, miracle or disaster? The tech priests are a different story. They see the world through the prism of a machine cult, where technology is sacred artifacts and repair is a right. For them, the emperor is the embodiment of the Omnissiah. His awakening is an event so momentous that it could split the Mechanicus into two factions. The first is the radicals. They will see the awakening as final proof that the emperor and the Omnissiah are one and the same. They are ready to carry out his orders, update their technology, and reveal secrets they've guarded for centuries. The second is dogmatists. These tech priests fear any change. Their power rests on the fact that they are the only ones who know how to handle ancient technology. The emperor's awakening could destroy their monopoly. If the emperor says, "Enough worship, return to the study of technology," half the Mechanicus will resist. Besides, there is one more question. What will happen to the Golden Throne itself? It's a barely functioning technological marvel, patched together at the level of fasten a bolt with a prayer and pray it doesn't explode. If the emperor abandons it, the Astronomicon might go dark. And if he doesn't, how will it function? A throne isn't a chair, it's a life support machine for a half-corpse. A living emperor might simply not need it, or conversely, he might be so dependent on it that stepping down would be tantamount to suicide. Primarchs, return of the family. One of the most important aspects is a reaction of the Emperor's sons. Several Primarchs are alive or capable of returning. Guilliman is already active. Lionel Johnson has awakened. Leman Roos may return. And even Perturuabo and Angron were once active. The Emperor, seeing his sons who have lived through 10,000 years of tragedy, war, and the decay of the Imperium, will face a great internal conflict. Who will he entrust power to? Who will be entrusted with the crusade? Who will he forgive? And who will he decide to eliminate forever? The fate of the galaxy will depend on these decisions. Political crisis. The Imperium on the brink of split. The Imperium of Man is a vast construct made up of many institutions. The Adeptus Terra, the Navigation Guild, the Mechanicus, the Ecclesiarchy, the Inquisition, the Adeptus Astartes, planetary governors, Titan legions, fleets, guards, merchant dynasties. They are all bound by a fragile balance of fear, tradition, and bureaucracy. And the emergence of an emperor capable of making decisions personally is a blow to the entire system. Let's imagine that the emperor actually awakens and begins issuing orders. His word is absolute law, in theory, but in practice, over 10,000 years, a vast layer of structures has formed that are unwilling to lose power. And each of them will react to his awakening differently. Adeptus Terra. The high bureaucracy that governs the Imperium has grown to monstrous proportions. Many of its leaders have grown accustomed to their power and influence, and they will understand that if the Emperor begins to change the laws, half of them will lose their positions, if not their heads. Some will try to sabotage the Emperor's orders. Others will pass them off as their own initiatives to maintain prestige. A few of the most fanatical will fall on their knees and beg for forgiveness. Navigation Guild. The Navigators are the clans that control warp travel. They know that if the Emperor leaves the throne and the Astronomicon goes dark, their power will collapse. They have no interest in his freedom, only in his continued existence on the throne. Therefore, some of the guild may oppose the reforms. Inquisition. This is where the fun begins. The Inquisition is not a single structure, but a multitude of orders and philosophies. Ordos Malleus, fighting demons. Ordos Xenos. Ordos Hereticus. Puritans, believers in absolute dogmas. Radicals, ready to use even the forces of chaos to save humanity. For the Puritans, the Emperor's awakening is a test. They fear that someone might pose themselves as emperor. After all, the inquisitors have seen too much. They will demand tests, confirmations, and accuse everyone around them of heresy. Radicals, on the other hand, especially those who believe in the emperor's rebirth as an avatar or psychic phenomenon, will perceive this as a long-awaited sign. But almost everyone will understand one thing: the emperor can personally control their activities. This means their autonomy may be limited. This triggers a massive political crisis. Power struggles erupt in individual sectors. Small wars, sabotage, conspiracies, assassinations in the name of the emperor, but directed against his reforms. The armies of the Imperium, mobilization or chaos. To understand what will happen next, one must understand the scale of the Imperium's forces. The Emperor has at his disposal billions of Astra Militarum soldiers, thousands of fleets, hundreds of Space Marine orders, Titan legions, Sisters of Battle, Adeptus Custodes fighters, personal guard. Each of these forces will react in its own way. Custodes. These are the Emperor's most loyal servants. They have protected him for thousands of years and consider it their sacred duty to watch over the throne. Their reaction will be calm and businesslike. If the Emperor awakens, they will carry out his will immediately, without a shadow of a doubt. But it's the Custodes who can cause violent clashes. If the Emperor orders the arrest of someone in the highest ranks, the Custodes will carry it out. and few in the Imperium can stop them. Sisters of battle. For them, the Emperor is a deity, and his awakening is a miracle. They will look to him for confirmation of their faith. But what if the Emperor says he is not a god? That's when the schism within the orders will begin. Some will accept the Emperor's will as the highest truth. Others will consider it a test. Still others will convince themselves that they are facing a false prophet. Fanaticism is a double-edged sword. Space Marines. The Adeptus Astartes are elite warriors, superhumans. For them, the Emperor is a father. Many chapters have effectively created their own versions of doctrine, traditions, and cults. Guilliman and Leon will likely support the Emperor and become his main pillars. But what will happen to the more radical chapters? Those who have distanced themselves from the Imperium, the Damned, the Blood Ravens, the Iron Wardens, the Black Templars. Some orders will kneel, some will start a crusade, but some might say, he has been absent too long. We serve the Imperium, not its ghost. War between Astartes? It's possible. Economic shock and billions of deaths. The Imperium is more than just an army and a religion. It's a vast economy sustained by interconnected logistics, fleets and supplies of food, fuel, and weapons. The Emperor's awakening causes immense chaos. Millions of people across the galaxy rush to celebrate, strike, and engage in orgiastic religious gatherings. Panic is starting to break out on some planets. Some people believe that this is the end of times. Some see this as a chance for rebellion. Someone starts a civil war, believing that their governor is a heretic. The Imperium is a gigantic, fragile monster, where the slightest glitch leads to the destruction of entire worlds. And the Emperor's awakening is no glitch. It's a tectonic shift. Rebellions are breaking out on dozens of planets. Hundreds of people are in mass riots. Thousands of people are experiencing religious hysteria. And all this before the Emperor says a word. Warp impact, the light of the Astronomicon and the storm of emotions. One of the most important questions is what will happen to the warp. The Emperor's awakening is not merely a political and religious event. It will inevitably reverberate across humanity's psychic field. The emotions of trillions of people, fear, awe, panic, ecstasy, will create a surge of colossal power in the warp. The warp is a reflection of the collective subconscious. And if billions simultaneously experience strong feelings, it's a storm. New warp storms will arise, some so powerful that they will become unstoppable across tens of light years. Navigators may become blinded or disoriented. Fleets will become lost. Trade routes will collapse. And this is just the beginning. If the Emperor awakens to his full power, his psychic radiation could significantly enhance the Astronomicon. It might become brighter, more stable, more powerful. Or, conversely, it might begin to flicker or vanish entirely if the Emperor chooses to leave the throne. Without the Astronomicon, the Imperium will fragment into hundreds of autonomous regions, unable to communicate with each other for centuries. Communications will be lost. Food supplies will be disrupted. Planets dependent on imports are doomed. Therefore, the first thing the Emperor will have to decide is whether he remains on the throne or not. Personally, immediately, without any room for error. Chaos reaction, demons, gods, traitor legions. The most dangerous foreign policy factor is, of course, chaos. The four gods, Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh, react to everything that happens in the galaxy, especially when it concerns the emotions of billions of people. The Emperor's awakening is a blow to them. His will is a wall against demons. His awareness is a threat to their power. His activity is a chance for humanity. For chaos, this is worse than a new crusade. Khorne will seek bloodshed. He will unleash hordes of demons and berserkers where religious wars erupt to intensify the literal chaos. Tzeentch will attempt to manipulate events, launching conspiracies, sabotage, and schism within the Imperium. Nurgle will exploit fear and despair to spread plagues. Slanesh will feed on mass ecstasy and fanaticism. And the traitor legions? They too will feel awakening. And for them, this is the moment of truth. For Chaos, the awakening of the Emperor is a red rag. For their warriors, this is a call to the largest offensive in tens of thousands of years. This is why, after the Emperor awakens, warp invasions will increase exponentially. Will the fallen Primarchs return? One of the hottest theories among fans is whether the Emperor's awakening could lead to the return of the fallen Primarchs. It is believed that many of them are not completely dead, but are held by the warp, demonic forces, or simply hidden. For example, Sanguinius. Legend says that his spirit can return. Leman Russ promised to return at the hour of the wolf. Vulkan is immortal. Jagatai Khan is trapped in the web of the warp. Lorgar awaits a sign from the Chaos gods. The Emperor's awakening could be such a sign. But will the Emperor be happy with their return? Some of his sons have changed noticeably. Lorgar has long since become an apostle of chaos. Perturabo is bitter and destructive. Angron is a demon prince, devoid of humanity. Fulgrim is corrupted. The Emperor may try to kill them, or to save, or even return them to human form, if he has enough power. But his awakening itself will force all the Primarchs to take sides, for the Imperium, against him, or for their own purposes. And the galaxy will see something not seen since the Great Crusade, the Primarchs back on the battlefield. Who will the Emperor call guilty? Horus left a scar on the entire history of the Imperium, and the most painful question will be, what will the Emperor say about his fall? For millennia, the Imperium has built a cult of guilt and heroism around the Eye of Terra, the war with the Shadow Legion, and the battle against traitors. The Emperor's word can either confirm these traditions or destroy them. If he says, I am also to blame, the Ecclesiarchy will collapse. If he says, Horus was only a plaything of the gods, he will increase his hatred of chaos. If he says, there is no forgiveness, this will justify new crusades. His opinion of Horus will cause an ideological explosion throughout the galaxy. 15. The Emperor's verdict. What to do with the Imperium? Once the shock of awakening wears off, the Emperor will face the greatest question of all. What's next? The Empire is in ruins. Humanity is fragmented. The warp is unstable. Chaos ensues. Institutions are corrupt. Billions die every day. The Emperor essentially has two choices: preserve the Imperium as it is and try to restore order, to destroy the Imperium and build a new one based on the principles he originally intended. Both options are equal in scale of disaster and hope. But in any case, the Emperor's first decision is the beginning of a new era. The Emperor's reforms. What will he change first? If the Emperor does return to active leadership, it's logical to expect him to implement large-scale reforms. But which ones will be the first? What will he focus on immediately, without delay? 1. Complete subordination of the Adeptus Terra. The Imperium's administration is a vast bureaucratic machine that has operated for thousands of years without direction from above. It has become overgrown with meaningless protocols, cults, and traditions, and often operates contrary to common sense. The Emperor did not tolerate bureaucracy even during the Crusades. If he sees what Adeptus Terra has become now, he will tear it to pieces. Expected: arrests of governors, purges of officials, liquidation of parasitic ministries, rewriting the Terran Codex. In essence, the Emperor could hold a cosmic Nuremberg, where all those who turn the Imperium into a machine for eating its own citizens will be held accountable. 2. Restarting science and banning religious obscurantism. The Emperor fought for rationality his entire life. He wanted to rid humanity of mysticism and religion. He personally commanded, "Do not worship me as a god. and now half the galaxy prays to him from morning until evening. If he wakes up and says, "I am not God," will come as a shock. He can ban the Imperium's religion entirely or reform it under a new teaching, one closer to his true ideals. He can order the removal of temples, the destruction of fanatical cults, and the return of humanity to the path of scientific progress. But this will cause a powerful religious conflict, up to civil wars. 3. The destruction of the Mechanicum dogmas. The Adeptus Mechanicus guard technological secrets like sacred relics. They worship bolts, deify servitors, and consider any innovation heretical. The Emperor was always for progress. He can, to reveal lost technologies, to return to humanity the knowledge of the Golden Age, prohibit rituals, replacing them with training, make the Mechanicus work, not pray. Result? The tech priests will either be delighted or furious. Some of the Mechanicum may revolt. The threat of civil war within the Imperium. The Emperor's awakening may become a destructive rather than a unifying factor. Why? Because too many structures, groups, and factions have their own interests. And the Emperor, no longer a symbol but an active figure, will begin to break the system. This will lead to a split. Potential parties to the conflict. 1. The Emperor's faction. Custodes, guard, many Astartes chapters, part of the Mechanicus. 2. Dogma faction. High Ecclesiarchy, Puritan Inquisitor, fanatical regiments. 3. Stability faction. Adeptus Terra, navigators, aristocratic houses, those who fear change. 4. Radical faction. Those who wish to use the Emperor's awakening for their own purposes, even if it requires war. And the worst thing is that these factions may clash with each other. The Imperium is vast. It's easy for a local war to break out and escalate into a full-scale one. Can the Emperor prevent civil war? Only if. He will regain control of the warp, will pacify the Ecclesiarchy by force, will immediately unite all the Primarchs under one banner, and will do it quickly. But given the scale of the Imperium, this is almost impossible without shedding blood. The new Great Crusade. One of the most likely scenarios is that the Emperor will declare a new Great Crusade. Reasons. Chaos is stronger than ever. The galaxy is immersed in war. The Imperium is fragmented. Segmentum pacificus and segmentum obscurus in crisis. Wade Rift divided space in two. The Emperor may decide that the only way to restore order is through a global war against the enemies of humanity. The goals of the crusade may be clearing out demonic infestations, destruction of the traitorous legions, liberation of lost worlds, warp stabilization, revival of the imperial truth, and the Primarchs who return to him will become his generals. Imagine, Guilliman is a master strategist, Leon is a chaos hunter, Roos, if he returns, will lead the front of rage, Vulkan will unite the armies, Jarek, Marneus Calgar, Saphael, legends of the Imperium, will become commanders. This will be the largest war in the history of the galaxy, but the price will be enormous. Billions dead, entire sectors are devastated, planets erased from the map. The Emperor understands the price of war, but if the choice is between war and the destruction of humanity, he will choose war. The possibility of a new golden age. And yet, it's worth remembering that the Emperor is more than just a weapon. He is a creator, a reformer, a leader. He has already raised humanity once, and theoretically, the Emperor's awakening could usher in a new golden age. If he makes it, to stabilize the Imperium, reform its institutions, bring back science, to develop the psyche of humanity, suppress chaos, to unite the Primarchs, then humanity will rise to the heights it lost after the fall of the House of Technicians, after the Age of Strife, and after the Horus Heresy. The Emperor can do what no one else can. But the question remains, will they let him do it? Will the Emperor become human again? The most important question that is often overlooked is, what exactly will the Emperor be like after awakening? We must understand that the Emperor we knew during the Great Crusade was a man, a superhuman, a powerful psyker, an immortal being born of thousands of shamans, but still a man. The same emperor who has been sitting on the golden throne for the last 10,000 years is no longer quite human. He is a psychic phenomenon. He is a living beacon. He is a demigod created by the faith of billions. The question is what kind of person he will emerge from the throne as. There are three possible options. 1. The emperor will return in a human body. He will be weakened, but intelligent. He will be able to speak, move, and give orders. In this case, political reforms are inevitable. He will become a living leader. 2. The emperor will awaken, but his body will remain on the throne. He will be a living god, but he will not be able to leave the throne. He will be able to influence the galaxy psychically, communicate through avatars, through revelations, through the chosen ones. This will lead to a new round of religious wars. His power will become even more mystical. 3. The emperor will become a pure psychic being. This is the most dangerous scenario. He will disappear as a physical body, but his will remain in the warp. What will it be? A new astronomicon? A gigantic Imperium intellect? A god equal to chaos? Or a defender of humanity? This option leads to a real age of myths. Conversation with the Primarchs, family, pain, and power. Assuming the Emperor is capable of direct communication, one of the first things he will do will be speak with his sons, and it will be a meeting the entire Imperium dreads. Imagine, throne room. Behind him is a golden light. Before him are the Primarchs, returning from the battlefields. Guilliman. He remained faithful to the Emperor's ideals. He tried to reform the Imperium, but saw that it was almost impossible. For him, the meeting is hope and fear of disappointing his father. Lion L. Johnson. He is secretive, dark, and full of old secrets. For him, the Emperor is an indisputable authority, but at the same time, a source of eternal responsibility. What will the Emperor say of the fall of part of his legion, of the secrets of the Dark Angels? Rus, Vulkan, Khan. Each of them has their own view of the Imperium. They had not seen their father for thousands of years. They changed, and the galaxy changed with them. What if the fallen return? If suddenly Lorgar, or Perturawabo, or even Fulgrim appears on the horizon, this conversation could be a disaster. The Emperor will find himself between roles: leader, teacher, father, judge, executioner. And through these meetings he will understand the Imperium cannot be restored by orders alone. It's too broken to just fix. People of the galaxy, billions of voices. Sometimes when thinking about the Imperium, fans forget. It's not just warriors, primarchs, officials, or fleets. These are trillions of ordinary people living on countless worlds, and the Emperor's awakening will affect them all. Hive planets. These worlds are constantly in the throes of life, struggle, and hunger. Part of the population will find hope. The other part will be afraid of change. Unrest, riots, and religious marches will break out. Farming worlds. Here people see the Imperium through the prism of taxes and guards. The awakening of the Emperor is a mystical, distant event for them, but it will change supplies, trade, and military mobilization. Fortification worlds. These are the first who will feel the onset of chaos after awakening. They will become the front line. Dark worlds, border worlds, colonies. The unknown will become their main enemy. They will be cut off from news, from the fleets, and will become fertile ground for riots and chaos. And billions of psychers. Yes, that's exactly it. The Emperor's awakening affects all psychers. Someone will develop new abilities, someone will go crazy, and someone will feel personal contact with the Emperor. This will be an era of miracles and the era of horrors. The Emperor's revelation. What will he tell humanity? Sooner or later, the Emperor will address all of humanity. The question is, what will he say? Here are the options. I am not a god, I am your leader. This will destroy the Ecclesiarchy and trigger a civil war. I am your God, and I have returned. This will strengthen religion, but will ultimately block scientific progress. I came back to save humanity, the safest option, but easily distorted by dogmatists. The Imperium must change. This will cause resistance from all those who profit from the current device. A new crusade has begun. It will unite people, but at the cost of billions of lives. His words will become the main turning point in the entire galactic history. The Emperor's court. What will he do with those responsible for the decline? When the Emperor realizes the extent of the Imperium's degradation, he will inevitably ask the question, who is to blame? The Imperial administration, the Church, the tech priests, the Inquisitors, all have contributed to the impoverishment, decay, and brutality of the Imperium for centuries. And while the Emperor understands that over 10,000 years, many of the problems have become systemic, he cannot ignore the responsibility of those who deliberately exploited chaos, dogma, and fear for their own power. The Emperor's judgment will be merciless. 1. Ecclesiarchy. Religious leaders will be the first to be hit. For millennia, they built a cult of the Emperor that was antithetical to everything he believed in. Punishment options. Dissolution of the entire structure. Execution or exile of the highest cardinals. The creation of a new, ordered spiritual caste, oriented towards morality rather than dogma. A ban on the deification of the Emperor. But this will cause a powerful religious revolt. Billions of people are accustomed to considering the Emperor as a god. If he himself says otherwise, it will be a shock. 2. Bureaucratic parasites. A huge number of officials have been sitting in their chairs for decades, turning the governance of the Imperium into a system of endless orders, forms, and corruption. The Emperor will immediately demand, remove unnecessary departments, transfer power into the hands of honest administrators, to destroy criminal cartels within Adeptus Terra. These purges will be bloody. 3. Radicals of the Inquisition. The Emperor will hate those who justified torture, genocide, and heretical experiments in his name. Some radicals used demons, performed warp rituals, and destroyed worlds at the slightest suspicion. The Emperor may declare, "The Inquisition serves me, not itself," after which the constitutional reorganization of all orders will begin. 4. Adeptus Mechanicus. The Emperor will be forced to solve the problem of technological stagnation. Tech priests who hid knowledge and hindered research will be punished. Those who worked honestly were rewarded. Perhaps the Emperor will create a new code of technology, clear, without mysticism, based on training, not ritual. 25. The Emperor's main problem? He sees further than everyone else. The Emperor is not just a ruler, he is a being capable of seeing the future, understanding the fates of civilizations, and feeling the vibrations of the warp. And if he wakes up, he will see, the galaxy is on the brink of its end. Orcs are multiplying faster than ever. Tyranids are coming from all sides. The Necrons are awakening. Eldar, Dark Eldar, Tau, each chooses their own path. And most importantly, chaos is becoming stronger. The Emperor will see, time is almost up. The galaxy is a blazing cauldron, and if humanity does not unite now, there will be no future. Therefore, the Emperor will probably decide, act quickly, decisively, and on the verge of cruelty. His reforms will not be soft, but iron. 26. Return of the Imperial Truth. Before the Horus Heresy, the Emperor promoted a doctrine known as the Imperial Truth, a rational philosophy that rejected religion, obscurantism, and warp superstition. But after the heresy, everything changed. The Emperor became a god, The imperial truth was forgotten. If the emperor wakes up, he will surely return to his philosophy. But will he be able to? Because billions of people already sincerely believe that he is an all-good God. Their faith is fueled by hope, and hope is what keeps the Imperium from collapsing. Therefore, the emperor will find himself in a moral trap. To restore humanity to reason and risk depriving it of hope, abandon dogma and betray your principles, or create a new synthetic philosophy that unites both faith and rationality. There is no answer. But this conflict will become key for the entire new era. The question arises, why did the emperor need a silent throne? Perhaps one of the reasons why the emperor has not awakened for so long is the inevitability of chaos that would follow his return. As long as he is on the throne, the Imperium is at least somewhat stable. But if he gets up, the whole system will explode. And the emperor, looking at this chaos, will understand. Humanity has become completely different in 10,000 years. Not the way he dreamed of seeing it, but still, it's his. The emperor and the warp consciousness. Will he become a god? The warp gives birth to gods from the emotions of sentient beings. The emperor has already become an object of worship for billions. If he wakes up, his psychic essence will find itself at the center of a giant whirlpool of faith, fear, hope, and despair. This could lead to the emperor becoming a true god, equal in power to chaos. And then the galaxy will receive. God of humanity, God of war with chaos, a God who doesn't run through the warp, but stands on the material side. This will be a complete reversal of the balance of power. But will the emperor become a god voluntarily? Unlikely. He always hated the idea of being deified, and the struggle between the emperor man and the emperor god may become the main internal drama of the reborn Imperium. The birth of a new doctrine, the Imperium reborn. If the emperor returns, he will inevitably attempt to build a new ideology. But what will it be? Over 10,000 years, the Imperium has become a construction on ruins. It combines fanaticism, bureaucracy, military dictatorship, pseudo-religious dogma, technological barbarism. The emperor will have to create a new doctrine that will simultaneously keep power in his hands, will be able to unite disparate worlds, will give hope to people, will discard the worst elements of the old system. He can build a hybrid, a rational state as under the imperial truth, but based on symbolism and morality, so as not to remove the support of faith completely. It will be a difficult balance, but it is this balance that will determine the future of humanity. War on chaos, the emperor's purpose. No matter how the Imperium changes, no matter what path it chooses, chaos will not disappear. The emperor's awakening is a signal for the four gods. It's a challenge they can't ignore. The emperor knows best. Chaos cannot be completely destroyed. We can only weaken its influence and protect people. But with the awakening of the emperor, the following will happen. 1. Increased warp warfare. Demons will become more active. The traitor legions will gather around the throne, hoping to either destroy the emperor or thwart his plans. 2. Breakthroughs across the galaxy. Every emotion, every cry of horror, every fanatical ecstasy is fuel for the warp. And when humanity experiences the shock of the emperor's awakening, the warp will become more unstable than ever. 3. The emperor's personal war. If he can manifest his psychic power to its full extent, he will become the ultimate enemy of chaos in the warp, a divine force opposing the demons. The emperor can become a literal light, a shining phenomenon in the immaterium. But this will lead to consequences. His presence in the warp will constantly tempt cultists, mutants, psychers, like a light that attracts moths. The role of the Primarchs in the New Age. The Emperor's awakening will change the fate of the Primarchs forever. Each of them is a symbol. Everyone is a leader, but they are all children of the Emperor. Guilliman, he will become his right hand. Guilliman's ideas for reforming the Imperium are already the first steps towards the return of the imperial truth. The Emperor will be proud of him and perhaps transfer some of his powers to him. Lyon L. Johnson. He is a master of hidden warfare. His talent for sabotage, investigation, and hunting chaos will be invaluable. The Emperor will entrust him with the dirtiest tasks, those that cannot be trusted to anyone else. Volcano. Vulkan's immortality is the Emperor's greatest asset. He will become not just a general, but a guardian of humanity. Rus, Khan, Corvus Corvax. If they return, everyone will have their own front, Great Crusade style. What about the fallen? Imagine Fulgrim, Lorgar, or Perturabo appearing before the Emperor again. What will he do? This will be a moment of greatest tension. The Emperor may try to save their souls, but it can also destroy them if they fall too deep. What will happen to the Space Marines? The Adeptus Astartes are the children of the Emperor, but also the children of a long war. Over 10,000 years they have become different organizations. Some are warriors of honor and discipline. Others are fanatics. The third are half-wild berserkers. The fourth are almost independent states. The Emperor will have to decide, is a new code needed? The Codex Astartes, created by Guilliman, was his attempt to prevent further betrayals. But the Emperor may decide that the code is outdated. He can reform the orders, to combine some, divide two large ones, to spread the bristly ones, to create new legions. Can the Emperor bring back full-fledged legions, as in the Crusade era? Theoretically, yes. In practice, this will provoke resistance from dozens of orders that pride themselves on their independence. How will the Guard change? The Emperor saw the Guard as his main instrument, not elite like Space Marines, not special forces like Custodes, namely a massive fighting force. He may require modernization of weapons, improvement of living conditions, new training standards, increasing the effectiveness of troops. The Guard will become stronger, but at the cost of enormous reconstruction. Accelerated evolution of humanity. The Emperor's key idea has always been, humanity must evolve. Psychic abilities are the beginning of the path. Perhaps the Emperor is activating ancient projects to develop the psychic abilities of people, to make them a defense against chaos. This will be risky. Many will die. Many will become mutants. Many will lose their minds. But the result could create a new generation of people capable of resisting demons. The great dilemma: will the Emperor become completely human? The last question is the most important. If the Emperor awakens, he will face reality. The world has changed. The Imperium is ugly, but the only thing that keeps humanity from extinction. People are broken by war and fear. Chaos is at its peak. The Emperor may decide to act harshly, too harsh, and then he will gradually lose the human part of himself, turning into, not in God, not as a savior, and into the survival machine. The Emperor who returns may be a very different Emperor. The fate of the Golden Throne. Will the throne become redundant? The Golden Throne is one of the key mysteries of the Imperium. He is simultaneously life support capsule, a warp transition machine, lighthouse, ancient mechanism of interweaving, unknown technology from the Dark Ages. But if the Emperor awakens and becomes able to leave the throne, two huge problems will arise. One, the Astronomicon will go out. Without the Emperor, the throne will not be able to produce the psychic beam. This will lead to disaster. Intersectoral connections will disappear. The fleets will have to move almost blindly. The planets will be isolated. The Imperium will effectively disintegrate into separate regions. This is tantamount to the death of the Imperium as a single structure. 2. A warp surge could kill billions. The Emperor held the warp at bay with his presence for thousands of years. If he leaves the throne, the flow of energy he has been holding back may break through. This will create new warp storms or strengthen existing ones. The galaxy could break apart into even more anomalies. Therefore, the emperor will face a brutal choice: remain on the throne and be the prison heart of the Imperium, or go out and risk destroying everything that still stands. This is the global tragedy of his fate, and no one knows what his decision will be. Will the emperor forgive? After awakening, the emperor will face not only enemies, but also a moral dilemma. Should we forgive the mistakes and sins of humanity? Horus's betrayal, the fall of the legions, the corruption of officials, the fanaticism of the Ecclesiarchy, the cruelty of the Inquisition, all of this grew up without him. But what will he do? Option 1, the emperor will be merciful. He will understand that people survived as best they could, that chaos, darkness, and war forced them to become cruel. And then he will give a chance to reforms, will allow people to adapt, will begin a gradual transformation of the Imperium. Option 2, the emperor will be furious. Awakening may reveal the depths of his anger. He will see that in 10,000 years the Imperium has become a caricature of his dream. And then he executes the guilty, will destroy institutions, will begin to rule with an iron fist. Option 3, the emperor will be cold. He can completely suppress emotions, becoming a pure, logical leader, acting on the basis of probabilities, strategies, and future threats. This is the most dangerous thing, because the cold emperor is a machine of strategic genius that does not take into account human weaknesses. It will be effective, but cruel to the point of impossibility. The possibility of transcendental renewal. There's a theory among Warhammer 40K fans that the emperor won't just wake up, he might be reborn. The point is that over 10,000 years on the throne, his essence has accumulated such a huge amount of psychic energy that his return may not be a rebirth of an old body, but the emergence of a new form of existence. Such an emperor will be able to simultaneously exist in the material and immaterial worlds, will communicate with people directly through thoughts, will become an omnipresent observer, will be able to stabilize the warp, will become the absolute shield of humanity. But there is also a scary side. Such a creature may lose the remnants of human personality. He will become something between God and supermind, and people will no longer worship the emperor man and to the emperor phenomenon. The collapse of the Imperium, inevitability or chance. If the emperor awakens, the Imperium may, to unite, to split, or transform. Scenario 1, the Imperium unites. The emperor imposes strict discipline, reforms work, the warp stabilizes, enemies are driven back. The Imperium grows stronger than ever. Scenario 2, the Imperium collapses. Sectors deprived of communication declare independence. The fortress worlds fall under the control of the Primarchs. Some Astartes chapters become de facto states. Wars between regions begin. Scenario 3, the Imperium reforms. Instead of a huge centralized machine, a network of autonomous but loyal to the emperor states appears, linked by a psychic or technological system. This option is the most realistic. The imperial superstate is too vast to be governed from a single center. The emperor can create a decentralized but unified system of government, a rational and flexible imperium. The main question is, why does the emperor need to wake up? This is the final philosophical point. Why did the emperor remain silent for 10,000 years? Why didn't you intervene? Why didn't you give any signs? His awakening is not an accident. It will be an act of will. And if he chooses to wake up, then the time for patience is over. Humanity has reached the edge. A decisive war is coming. The fate of the galaxy requires his direct participation. The emperor will wake up only when he understands. Without it, humanity will perish. And this moment is the point of no return. The world will change completely, and it will never be the same again. The aftermath of awakening, a galaxy at a turning point. So, we've come a long way. from the first moments of the Emperor's awakening to the global political, military, and religious consequences. And now we can ask the main question: what will the world be like after the Emperor's return? The truth is that the world can no longer remain the same. The Emperor's awakening is not an event, it is an era. This is a tectonic shift that will crack the entire galaxy. Every world, every fleet, every order, every person will feel his will. Because the Emperor is more than just a leader, it is a civilization contained in one being. It is the center of gravity around which the fate of humanity revolves. And if he wakes up, gravity will change. Who will survive in the new world? When the Emperor returns, there will be those among the people who will become the heroes of a new era. 1. Those who are able to think. The Emperor always valued reason. New leaders will have to stop being afraid of knowledge, stop hiding behind dogma, and accept reality as it is. 2. Those who are able to obey, but not servile. The Emperor hated worship. He needs devotees, not fanatics. He needs strong personalities, not empty vessels for dogma. 3. Those who are not afraid of change. The Imperium has always feared the new, but in the new world, survival depends on flexibility. 4. And finally, those who are ready to die for humanity. The Emperor has always placed humanity above all races, gods, and the warp, and the new heroes will follow this same principle. Who will fall in the new world? But the awakening of the Emperor is also a purification. 1. The fanatics will fall. Those who believe not in the Emperor, but in their interpretations of his will. Those who replace service with cruelty. Those who confuse religion with power. 2. Bureaucrats will fall. Those who have been parasitizing on the system for centuries, breaking connections and deceiving worlds. 3. Corrupt leaders will fall. Those who put personal gain above humanity. 4. Those who served chaos will fall, even if they called it pragmatism. The Emperor does not seek compromise with the warp. He destroys threats. And when he wakes up, many will realize that they were a threat. The most dangerous question: will the Emperor change the brain of humanity? A theory that is rarely discussed out loud, but which fans know about. The Emperor created the Primarchs, genetically modified superhumans. He created the Space Marines, transformed warriors. He created Psychers, sterilized mutants, and corrected evolution. Can't you imagine that the Emperor will want to change humanity itself? To make it less vulnerable to chaos, so that people's thoughts are purer, so that emotions do not feed demons, so that weakness disappears forever. Such an Emperor is not a God of mercy. This is the architect God. And if he chooses this path, humanity will become a different species. Not the people who live now, and a new race created in the flames of war. This is one of the most terrifying and at the same time tempting consequences of his awakening. The final paradox: will the Emperor be the salvation or the end? And now we come to the most important, the most frightening, the most honest thought. The Emperor's awakening could be both salvation and the beginning of the end. Because if the Emperor remains human, humanity will have a leader, but a person can make mistakes. If the Emperor becomes a god, humanity will gain absolute protection. But God may decide that he no longer needs people. If the Emperor decides to reform the Imperium, he will save it from degradation. But the reforms will create chaos that will destroy billions. If the Emperor starts a crusade, humanity will defeat its enemies, but it will pay with bodies. If the Emperor remains on the throne, the Imperium will survive, but it will never get better. This is a paradox, and everything depends on which path he chooses. Bottom line, if the Emperor wakes up, then the galaxy will see the greatest war in history, the greatest hope, the greatest fear, the greatest transformation, the greatest tragedy, or the greatest miracle. Or maybe all of this at the same time. The Emperor is not just a ruler, He is the last candle of humanity in the endless night of the warp. His awakening is the dawn, or the flame that will burn everything around. The galaxy will freeze. The worlds will stop breathing. The fleets will turn towards Terra. The Primarchs will kneel or raise their swords. The Chaos Gods will roar. And billions of people will learn the truth. If the Emperor wakes up, the world will die, and a new one will be born.